Here's a bunch of reasons why I decided to leave the US, give up my 9 to 5, and quit the rat race. The first thing is going to be cost of living. Cost of living in the United States is outrageous. Everyone knows this. Even if you try to live in a low cost of living area, it's still really expensive, and it's getting worse and worse. It seems like inflation and the economy, the job market, the housing market, everything is just getting so bad in the US. As someone who's just trying to get by and raise a family and maybe have a little bit of extra money to go on vacation and buy a few toys for your garage or bullshit that you want to spend your money on. Feels like we're all being choked out. It feels like it's so hard to get ahead in the US, and it feels like everything is so goddamn expensive. Gas, food, housing, cars, insurance, all of that stuff. Like, it's insane how much we were spending just to live in the United States. Again, we were in a high cost of living area, but we crunched the numbers, and we knew that moving to a lower cost of living area would only save us a tiny bit more. And it wasn't the answer to our problems, because it's almost like the United States figures out a way to get you when you're trying to make your life better. And that sounds cynical, and I'm sure that that's not true, but it did feel a lot like the American dream was dead. We've owned houses, we've had the car, we've had the white picket fence, we had everything that you strive for when you live in America, everything that they try to sell that dream on, we bought into it, and it felt like it was just a trap in order to squeeze as much money out of us. And at the end of the day, it felt like it was just too expensive to live, and the cost of living was just terrible. That's one of the main reasons, if not the top reason, we left the US, was we just couldn't afford it anymore, and we didn't want to afford it. We didn't want to keep working so hard, spending so much just to live a regular life. We did not live a lavish lifestyle. I made $150,000 a year, and we felt like we were just middle class. And I remember thinking that six-figure $100,000 a year was like that golden number to be well off, and it wasn't the case at all. It feels like in order to have what you think $100,000 a year will get you in the US, you need to make like $500,000, and it's really hard to make that much money. And it's a lot nicer to leave the US, make $50,000 a year, and feel like you're making $150,000 a year. And that's what we've noticed so far. And that's one of the reasons why we left. The healthcare system. The healthcare system in the United States sucks. Health insurance is super expensive. It's tied into your employer. It's like they dangle it over your head, and they know they hold that over you, and they have power in the health insurance. How many times have you felt like I would just leave this job if it wasn't for my health insurance? How you say, I could probably get something better, but I'd have to give up my insurance. How companies will hire you part-time or on call, or just enough to not give you full benefits so you don't have to get health insurance. How so many people struggle and don't go to the doctor and don't get taken care of for ailments and things that they need to get looked at because they don't have health insurance. I'm speaking for personal experience. I remember when I messed up my knee back when I was younger, and I went to go get an MRI, and even with insurance, it was like $500, and I was like, no thanks, I'll pass. I don't need to do that. I'll just, cut that leg off. If my knee gets arthritis and I can't walk when I'm 50, at least I saved $500 because I didn't have it at the time. And I know that is a reality of America. And I understand what it's like to not have health insurance and to worry about getting sick and going to the doctor, or to get injured and need an ambulance. When I flew off on my motorcycle when I was like 23 years old, I had no health insurance, and I was covered in road rash. The firefighters that helped patch me up were like, dude, we should take you in so you can get this stuff cleaned up. We will take you in the ambulance. And I was like, whoa. I cannot afford that ambulance ride. My motorcycle was wrecked, which was my main mode of transportation. I was covered in blood and half of my clothes was tore off. And the paramedic was like, you should really get a tetanus shot. We should really take you in right now and get that all cleaned up because you're going to have asphalt stuck in your arm and that really looks pretty nasty. You might need a skin graft. I remember going to the quick care the next day and having to call in sick for work and feeling like, damn, I'm going to miss a day of work. I don't have insurance and I have to deal with all this stuff. You just don't have to deal with that when you leave the US. And we're traveling right now, so we're not in a permanent place, but we've talked with a lot of people who have had to get health care in different places in Europe. In Asia, we got health care here. Like we had things that we needed to go to the doctor for. My daughter got food poisoning, so we took her in. I got sick. My son stepped on a bee and had like an allergic reaction, so we took him in. I had a blood panel done just because I wanted to get one done. That was only like $150. That would have been like thousands of dollars if I wanted to do that in the US. And they probably wouldn't have even done it because I tried to get a full blood panel done when I had Kaiser Permanente insurance, which was like really good healthcare from my last job. And they wouldn't do it unless there was a reason, unless I was sick and they needed to check to see what was wrong with me. They wouldn't give me a full blood panel. But when I was in Vietnam, I paid $150 and I got a full blood panel with all my markers and everything to see if I had any possibility of getting different types of cancer and to check the full works of my blood. And it was $150. I got my teeth cleaned for $6. Great teeth cleaning. Best teeth cleaning I've ever had. To think that I was paying like $600 or $700 a month for health insurance when I was in the US, and that was cheap for my whole family because I worked for the state and I had really good health insurance. And to think that like I don't have to pay that anymore. And honestly, if anyone gets sick and has to go to the emergency room, like we had to take my daughter, it was only about $300 for an emergency room visit. And they did an ultrasound, they did blood work, they gave her an IV, they let her stay the whole night, and it was $300. That's it. Nothing else, no strings attached. At an international hospital too, where everyone spoke English and it was super clean and nice. Imagine that happening in the US and you don't have health insurance. Been like $10,000 to $20,000. So healthcare sucks in the US. And it's another big reason why we left. And I think that many people probably feel the same way about that one too. The education system in the US is garbage. And it's a big reason why we left. We were already homeschooling our kids because we didn't want them in public education. And private school was too expensive. It just wasn't realistic for us to put them in private school. So we decided to take the route of homeschooling. It kind of worked out because it happened right during COVID. And that's when my wife started homeschooling them, and we just kept it up even when they could go back. I don't want my kid at a desk all day doing worksheets and reading outdated textbooks, filling their head with information that they probably will never use and stuff that is not going to really make them any smarter. Just makes them smart enough to read the manuals and to sit down and be quiet and follow direction. And that's not what I think education should be. And I know that the education system in a lot of other countries is completely different. When we went to Portugal for the first time, we talked to a lot of parents that had their children enrolled in school, and they told us about their curriculum. They told us about their school lunches. They told us about how the education system was there. And we were like taken back. We had no idea that it was like that in other places. And we thought they were in a private school, and they were like, no, this is completely free. They were expats that lived there, and their American kids were in school there. It was just like, you just don't realize how it is until you leave, because you really do think that it's not going to be better in other places. And then when you leave, you realize that it is. And the education system was a big reason why we left, but not the only reason, because like I said, we homeschool. But if we ever settle down somewhere, we know that when we do, our kids will have probably a much better education than they receive in the United States. Also, we have the option of taking them to like an international school, which is kind of like a private school, but it's still way cheaper than most private school in the US, and that's another option, and it's more affordable, which I don't want to get into what an international school is, but it goes to show you how bad our education system is, because you can get private international schooling at like half the price when you're not in the US than when you are there, just to get a regular private school. It's hard to understand until you leave, but when you do, you'll realize that it's one of the reasons why you left. Another thing too is work-life balance. I'm on the fence about work-life balance because I'm like on hustle mode. I'm on entrepreneur mode. I don't care about work-life balance. I want to go, 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 go. That is me because I am trying to do entrepreneurship, because I'm trying to build businesses. I'm trying to create content. I'm trying to make this thing work, and it requires that level of effort at the time. But I will tell you that there is culturally a problem with work-life balance when it comes to the United States that you don't see in other places. And I know every place is different, but I'll tell you like this: when you go to Europe and the stores are all closed from noon to like 4 p.m. because it's siesta time, nobody puts work before their life. And it's very balanced in the other direction. But in the US, so many people put their work before their life and their family. It's just something that you don't realize, and you start to appreciate it, and you start to see how it is different culturally and how it's ingrained in us in the US to just be like that. And when you leave the US, you start seeing that, oh, other people don't really care about work and their jobs as much as Americans do. And it's crazy how we're almost indoctrinated to be like good little worker bees, where other places, like in France, for instance, didn't they up the retirement age by like 1 or 2 years? And there was a full-on protest with riots, and they were burning shit down because they are like, you are not making us work any harder than we need to. It's nice to kind of adjust and change that way, because I do feel that there is a sense of obeying our corporate overlords that we have instilled in us as Americans that you don't see in other places. That was kind of ranty and whatnot, but just know that it's a lot different in when you're not in the US. And it's a big reason why we left, because we kind of just like when it's more chill. Political climate. I fucking hate United States politics. I hate the divide that there is in the US. I hate the extreme left. I hate the extreme right. And I hate anyone who's too far off the middle, because it is crazy how people just obsess over the news, over the politics, over the policies, over what people are doing with their bodies, over what the beliefs are. There's like so much of that shit in the US. And it's just like, it breaks families apart. It destroys friendships. It just makes you choose where you live. It makes you choose who you hang out with. It makes you hate people for no reason other than the shit that they're pumping into you through the media. And it's so crazy how much the political climate just doesn't affect us now. Like, we left, and I don't know what the politics are here. I don't care. I don't live here. I'm traveling. My family and I are nomads. If we ever decide to settle down somewhere, we will make the right choice to find a place that has reasonable politics, although politics are fucked everywhere. The fact that we don't have to deal with that anymore, the fact that I don't have to hear about Trump or Biden or whatever, the fact that I don't have to hear about any of that nonsense. It's not on the radios. It's not on all the TVs. When you go to different establishments, you don't have to hear people talk about it. It's not brought up in conversation. Even with expats who are full-time travelers, I've never once got into a political conversation with any of them, unless it was more like, don't you hate how crazy things are in America? And isn't it nice, like, leaving and coming somewhere else where it's not like that? And then you kind of get into that, like, a lot of us that decide to travel and become expats and traveling families, we all kind of felt a little bit like America was on fire, and there's a lot of political aspects to that. But I've never gotten into a political conversation with any of the Americans that I've met while traveling, and I've met a bunch of them. And it's just something like, when you leave, you just stop caring about it. Many of us who decide to leave were never far left or far right. We were just far from the bullshit. And I think that that's what a lot of the politics are in the US. And it's one of the main reasons that we decided to leave, because we don't like it. We don't like having to have every conversation be about what side are you on? Are you team red or blue? Are you left or right? We don't care. We left. we left, not we left or we are left. Like, we're gone. So a few more reasons why we left the US is safety. The US just started to feel very, very, very unsafe. Problems everywhere. Drugs, homelessness, police brutality, mass shootings, school shootings, you name it. All of that stuff. Like those safety concerns that really started to feel like it could happen to us at any time. I've got friends who have been involved in some crazy stuff. You just wouldn't imagine that happening in other places. Again, different places, right? Like if I hear that there are some really sketchy places that you can visit that we're not going to because we are traveling to safe locations. And I'm not young and wild and free. I've got family and kids, and I got to make sure that they're safe. So we go to safe places. So I'm sure that there are dangers if you go to dangerous places, but America just felt very unsafe overall in general. Like I don't know how many people that I know personally that have had some crazy shit happen to them. And not even my shady ass friends from back in the day. Like nice people who have families and jobs and responsibilities, not the delinquent hood rats that I knew from when I was younger. Someone I know, actually, I won't drop names, but they watch my channel and they'll know if I'm talking about them. Like him and his son got shot at by some delinquents trying to sell some stuff on OfferUp. They're both lucky to be alive. His son was like 15 at the time, and it's just crazy. Like I had an AK-47 pulled out on me and my friends in traffic because my friend accidentally cut somebody off. An AK-47 in traffic. This was way back in the day, but it happened. Gun violence and the dangers of America are crazy. I know so many people who were committing crimes growing up. I know that those are realities. I understand that like there are very dangerous people, again, everywhere, not just America, but it seems like it felt that America was getting more and more unsafe. You know, what's funny is we heard a firework go off and me and my wife jumped. We freaked out. And the first thing that came to her mind and I were someone was shooting. And I remember when we first went to England, when we went for Guy Fawkes Day, somebody made a joke that they said that you can tell who the Americans are when the fireworks go off. They start jumping and they get scared. And it's weird because it's true. And I've experienced it since. And that most recent one was just like, oh man, that's nuts. And it's just where your mind's at because we're just so used to that being a potential reality of our day when you just don't know if something dangerous is going to happen, and it doesn't feel that way. And it's one of the reasons why we left, because safety was a concern and we like going to safe places, and it felt that America was just getting a little unsafe. The last two things that I'll just mention is opportunities that we have and the potential for personal growth and development. I felt that I was very limited on my opportunities in America. Ironically enough, the land of opportunity, and considering where I came from, I am literally a living, breathing embodiment of the American dream because I came from nothing and I was able to work my way up and eventually get a good job and a career and get the house and kids and all that stuff. But it still felt like the opportunities for me to pursue entrepreneurship, for me to grow as an individual by traveling and seeing different parts of the world, like those things were not going to happen if I just kept working a 9-to-5 and I kept living the American dream. And if I didn't leave America and just kept doing those things, like I would not have been able to do that. And there was a big reason why we left that had to do with opportunity and growth. And now as we've left, I've been working really hard on trying to continue to make content and build up my social medias and start working on the apps that I've been talking about working on that I didn't have time to. I have time now, and I wouldn't have had that time if I would have stayed. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we left, apart from the rest that I've mentioned in this video. And with all that said, I'm going to end this video now. I don't know if this video is going to be helpful to anyone, but I just wanted to express some of the reasons why we decided to get out, because maybe you're feeling the same way and you might want to get out sooner or later. All right. With all that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.